Hello everybody and welcome to this video, which you already know because you clicked on the title. It's all about traveling on a budget. So it's 2020, we're in a new year, we've all got resolutions, everyone wants to travel more, but at the same time, where's the money? How do we travel without billions and billions of dollars in our bank account? Because I get it, travel can be really pricey. So I just got back from 9 months in Europe. I'm not by any means saying that I'm an expert here, but while I was traveling, my budget was around $1,800 a month. Some months it was a little bit more, some months it was less, but that's roughly about what I was spending. I think that's a pretty good amount, especially if you're going for a long trip. It's a pretty sustainable amount. Yeah, I'm just all about making sure that you can have an amazing trip and not miss out on all of the fun stuff, but also not be completely broke by the time you get home. And I get a lot of messages from people being like, how did you budget your trip? How much money were you spending? How did you save all that money? So I figured, why not just do a video about it, I guess. So I'm gonna kind of go over, before you go on a trip, how you can research to make sure you're going to the best places, and like booking it and how to get the cheapest deals, and then when you're actually there, what you can do to sort of save money as you're going along. And yeah, just everything I kind of learned while I was on my trip. Tip number one, before you go, research. It's about finding the best places to go where your dollar can really go a long way, I guess. So the amount of money that I'd spend in one day when I was in the US would probably last about a week for when I was in Albania. So it's just about making smart decisions like that. So before I left, I started a Google Doc and I made a list of all the countries in Europe that I wanted to visit, and then beside them I wrote the dollar amount of what you'd spend there on an average day. I found a website that lists it all really well. I can't remember what it was, but I'll put a link down there. I spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe because it was so cheap. So I gotta say, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Czech Republic, Albania, mainland Greece. Definitely recommend all those places. They were cheap as hell. Loved it. Number two, think about what time of year you're going to be there. For example, I was in Europe in summer, which is the peak season. Places in Italy were so expensive. Just like a shitty hostel room was $50 a night. Same with the Greek islands. But instead, I spent the summer months in Albania and in the Balkans and on mainland Greece, and it was so much cheaper. So I was getting hostel rooms for $10 a night rather than $50. Food was really cheap. Transport was really cheap. Everything was super low. I don't want to say cheap because someone once told me that that was offensive. It wasn't cheap, it was just low cost. So if you're going to be there in summer and you don't want to be spending an arm and a leg on stuff that doesn't need to be that expensive, definitely aim for the cheaper places. And then when it gets to the off season, you can go to Italy, you can go to France, you can go to London. Oh, London's actually always expensive, so scrap that. But I went to Italy in October, November, and it was so much cheaper. I got an Airbnb on the beach for $35, so it's better than paying $200 or whatever that would have cost in summer. Number three is to keep track of what you're spending when you're actually on the trip. I didn't do that for the first month and I was like, I don't know how much I've spent. Oh, it's a bit overwhelming. So then I found this amazing app called It's called TripCoin. So you can break it down by trip. Say for example, if you're planning like a 3-week trip to Asia, you can just call it Asia. But what I did is I broke it down by month. So I had a whole separate trip for May, June, July, August, etc. And then every time I spent money, I would put it in this app. And it's really good because you can put it in any currency and then it translates it back to your main currency. So I had it in Australian dollars and I would type in that I just spent, you know, 20 Albanian, I can't remember what the currency there is, 20 Albanian whatever, and it would automatically say, okay, that's $3.50 Australian. And then it would just add it to this tally and you can see how much you've spent over one day. You can see how much you've spent over the month. Say it's the 15th, you just go to the statistics page and it has a little meter showing you, okay, you've spent 59% of what you meant to spend this month. It's a really good way to keep track of it because I can sort of see it all laid out in front of me. I'm like, oh, it's okay that I spent $100 today because yesterday I only spent 10. Kind of just eases your worries a little bit, you know? Now I'm just gonna go through some random tips that I found along the way that really helped. So number 4, try and go for buses over trains. Trains are expensive a lot more expensive actually. Buses take longer, but if you've got the time, try and go for buses. Flixbus especially. Oh, it's good. And they've got Wi-Fi and they've got outlets. It's great. Everyone told me to get a Eurail pass, but yeah, it's a lot more expensive than getting buses everywhere. Plus the Eurail doesn't really go to most of Eastern Europe, so that wasn't going to help me anyway because it wasn't really where I wanted to go. Number 5, stay in hostels. Obviously they're cheaper, so you might know that most hostels have big rooms with 18, 14, 12 beds, or ones that are a bit smaller with like 4 beds in it. It's normally $10, $15 more to stay in the smaller dorm than the bigger dorm. Initially I was like, oh, I'll just stay in the smaller dorms, it'll be quieter or it'll be cleaner, it'll be smaller, whatever. But I kind of found out quickly that all it takes is just one shitty person, and you can either have that in a 4-bed dorm or in a 12-bed dorm. Some of the worst hostel experiences I had were in the smaller 4 to 6 bed dorms, and then when I was in a dorm of like 18 people, I actually had a great time and met some fun people, and everyone was respectful and it was quiet. People are going to be shitheads in either one, or people are going to be nice in either one. It really I don't think there's that much difference, especially when it comes down to $15 a night. Also, staying in hostels, most of them have free breakfasts. Some of them even had free dinner. I stayed in one place in Krakow that had free dinner and free breakfast. It was amazing. I didn't spend any money on food. Try and find a hostel that has free breakfast and then you'll save money on that. 6 is couchsurfing. I did a lot of couchsurfing when I was overseas. Basically, this is just a community that you can sign up for where people will offer their couch or a spare room to travelers who are passing through, and then you kind of do the same thing when you're back home. I used couchsurfing 10 years ago when I lived in New York, and I used it a lot on this trip because it's just like a really good way to cut down on costs, but also just to meet people. I met some of the best people on couchsurfing. Stayed with this awesome guy in Italy for 3 days who was a wine connoisseur, so we drank a lot of wine, and then I made a friend in Germany who I stayed with, and I stayed with this amazing guy in the US. Like, you just make these really amazing friends, and you also get a free place to stay, which saves on money. Another way to save coin is to do a workaway. So basically that is, you go somewhere and you work for them for a couple hours a day in return for free accommodation and sometimes free food. So I actually did a workaway in Florence in a B&B, which was amazing, and I stayed there for a month. So if you're doing long-term travel and you want to stay somewhere for a while, workaway could be a good option. Number 7, I don't remember where we're up to. I think it was 7. Whatever, is just to cook. One of the biggest things you'll be spending money on a trip is food, and if you're eating out 3 meals a day, that adds up real quick. So just like learn some real basic recipes. Whenever I cooked in a hostel kitchen, it was literally just a can of chickpeas, a can of tomatoes, and then vegetables like in a pan, heated up. There you go, that's like a stew that'll last for a few days. Or pasta, or salads, or just like anything that's really cheap, and you'll save so much money on that. Obviously I still ate out at restaurants because I wanted to try the local food, but it was just like in moderation, you know. I'd go out for lunch and then I'd cook dinner, or I'd cook dinner and then the next night I'd be able to go out and spend a bit more money. Obviously if you're just on a 2-week trip, maybe you don't want to be cooking every night because it's just a holiday, but if you're on like a long extended travel trip, then yeah, you want to kind of balance it all out. And along with that, just like stock up on snacks at the grocery store. So I would always have sort of a stash of muesli bars or fruit or biscuits or crackers or candy in my bag, and then I wouldn't really have to buy lunch. So I would just have a big breakfast, snack throughout the day, and then buy dinner or cook dinner. It was kind of a good way to save money. Even a whole box of muesli bars is going to be cheaper than going out to eat somewhere. Next up, when you're booking your flights, I'm kind of like zigzagging a bit around here. When you're booking your flights, try and do it through Skyscanner or Priceline or an app that will help you find the cheapest prices. And when you're searching for flights, always do it in an incognito window, because I don't really know how it works, but they save your cookies, and then the next time you search that flight, they'll give you a more expensive one. So I don't really know the science behind it, but just use an incognito window. So next up is to avoid the overly touristy stuff, because that gets expensive. Obviously, if there's something that you really, really want to do, go for it, and it's definitely worth the money. I remember I went to this amazing museum that was like $20 to go to, and I was like, ugh, but it was totally worth it. Meanwhile, I'm not going to spend $30 or whatever it is to go on the London Eye, because like it's just not really what I wanted to do. There are so many cool things that you can do for free in a lot of places. I always go on the free walking tours. Obviously you tip the guide at the end, but you get so much good stuff out of those tours, and you can meet some really cool people, and you can get good recommendations for where to go in the city. Just walking around cool neighborhoods. I do a lot of research before I go to a new place and find the coolest places to sort of see and what to do and what's free and where to go and where to eat. That's a totally different video, but yeah, try and do your research beforehand, try and find things that are free and avoid the really touristy stuff. And at the same time, don't eat food or go to cafes or go to bars in the touristy areas because they're always way more expensive. Next tip is kind of hard for some people, but pack light if you can. Because I was traveling for 9 months, I had to have winter stuff and summer stuff, so I couldn't really pack light, and then I had to pay $50 to $60 every time I flew somewhere to pay for extra baggage, which sucks. I didn't actually fly that much, I mainly used buses and trains, but it all added up in the end. So if you can, just take a carry-on bag and carry those on planes. Okay, next up is make friends in your hostels or make friends on your walking tours, or just chat to people and make friends with other travelers, because you can save a lot of money if you travel together. I met a girl in Greece and we ended up traveling together for like 2 weeks, and it was really great because we shared the cost of renting kayaks, we shared the cost of going on a boat trip, we shared the cost of a really cool Airbnb that we stayed in that was $30 a night, but the hostel was $15 a night each, so we were like, oh, we'll stay in this like cool Airbnb instead. And you can share food costs, and it ends up saving a lot of money if you are with other people. Obviously, if you're traveling with your friends, you don't need to do this, but if you are alone like me, it's good to make friends. Next up, when it comes to getting around the city, don't use Uber. I think I used Uber maybe like twice on my whole trip, and that's just because I got in on a train at 10 p.m. and I had no idea where I was going, so I used Uber to get to my hostel. Even though it is cheaper in a lot of places, it's still better to walk or to get public transport. Public transport can be a little bit intimidating when you first get somewhere, but Google Maps now, if you just like search up anywhere on your phone, it'll tell you how to get there with public transport, and it's so easy. And you can save a lot of money by using the metro or using buses rather than Uber.
Shout out.
Shout there.
Also get a local SIM card. Maybe if you're just on a short trip, it's not worth it, but I think it is worth it because a local SIM is probably only going to cost you like $10, $15. It's a lot better than paying for roaming. Even the cheapest roaming is still $5 a day. You've got to stay there for like 3 days and then you've spent $15, so you may as well have just got a local SIM. Most of them you can get online, or you just go into store, and a lot of places I found spoke English well enough for me to be able to get a SIM. If you prepare ahead of time, you can just like get one online and get it mailed to your hotel or hostel or a friend or whatever, and then you've got it there ready straight away. I used giffgaff, which is a UK based SIM card. I was in the UK, so I just got it sent to me there, and then it worked all through Europe, and I paid £10 a month for 12 gigabytes of data. That's pretty good. I don't really know what else. I feel like I'm missing something really important, but I don't know what. Travel can be really expensive, but it also can be really cheap. It's just all about sort of planning ahead and prioritizing things that you really want to do. So I was able to drop like $50 on going to a concert that I really wanted to see because I mean, I wasn't really sacrificed, but you know, you just got to make smart choices along the way and spend your money on the things that are important. So like, is that $30 dinner really going to bring you joy, or can you save that $30 and use it for an amazing attraction that you want to go to, or use that $30 for a train and take a day trip out to like a winery, you know? Think about what you're spending. It's very easy to be on holiday and be like, oh, whatever, this money doesn't count. But in the long run, yeah, it's better to be thrifty, be frugal. I don't know, people along the way kind of made fun of me for being thrifty and not wanting to, you know, spend heaps of money on cocktails and stupid things that I didn't need. But in the end, I was able to travel for 9 months and I didn't go broke, and I came home and I still have money in my bank account. So just like, don't listen to any other people and do what feels right for you, I guess. Just remember that it is possible to go on an amazing trip without breaking the bank. Yeah, if you have any questions, please leave them below and I'll answer them, because I feel like I just always ramble in these videos and it's like, what am I even saying? I don't know. But if you enjoyed it, if it helped you, please give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye.